We often get caught chasing words. We wait for someone to say, I love you, or you mean everything to me. And we treat those phrases like they're the gold standard of love. But let me tell you something that's far more telling than any sentence someone can throw your way. Consistency. When someone loves you deeply, you don't need to hear it shouted across a room because their behavior whispers it to you every single day. Consistency is love's quiet language. It's in the text that says, did you get home safe? It's in the way they remember that you don't like sugar in your tea. It's showing up, not when it's easy, but when it's hard. Because anyone can be charming when life is smooth. Anyone can be there when it's convenient. But the real test of love isn't how someone acts when everything's aligned. It's how they behave when it's messy, when it's late, when they're tired, and when you're not exactly your best self. See, love is not found in grand romantic gestures that happen twice a year. It's in the small, consistent actions that require effort. It's the follow-through, the check-ins, the fact that they don't disappear when conflict arises. In fact, someone who loves you doesn't run when it's uncomfortable. They lean in. And this is important. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means reliability. It means that even when they make a mistake, they take accountability and come back stronger. It's not about getting it right every single time. It's about making the choice to be present over and over again. A lot of people get confused because they hear beautiful things from someone and think that must be love. But words are cheap when not backed by actions. You want to know if someone loves you? Watch how they act when there's nothing in it for them. That's when the truth surfaces. That's when the signals are loudest, even if no word is spoken. So the next time you find yourself wondering how someone feels about you, don't just listen to what they say. Watch how they show up. Are they consistent? Are they present? Do they act with care when no one's watching? Because in the end, love isn't just something you say, it's something you prove. In the quiet moments, in the patterns you build, and in the way you stay. One of the most powerful yet often overlooked indicators of deep love is sacrifice. Now, I know that word can feel a bit heavy, right? But I'm not talking about someone giving up everything they are for someone else. That's not love. That's codependency. I'm talking about conscious, thoughtful acts of prioritization. When someone genuinely cares, they make room for you in their life, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's inconvenient. Let's break that down. Love shows up in what people choose to do when they have other options. Think about that for a moment. Anyone can fit you in when nothing else is going on. But when someone rearranges their schedule, skips the extra hour of sleep, or puts off something they want to do so they can be there for you, that's not just kindness, that's love in action. It's easy to say you matter to me, but when you really matter to someone, it becomes obvious in how they manage their time, energy, and attention. And love, at its core, is about where we place our attention. When someone makes consistent micro-sacrifices, the small ones like remembering what makes you anxious and adjusting their behavior accordingly, or the big ones like standing by you when life gets ugly, they're saying, I see you, you are worth it. Now here's the kicker. Sacrifice doesn't always look dramatic. In fact, the most beautiful sacrifices are subtle. Turning down a night out to sit and talk when you're low. Listening without distraction when they could easily zone out. Choosing to understand you even when they're tired. These aren't loud declarations, that they're quiet commitments. And you might be thinking, well, what if I'm not seeing that in someone I care about? Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you have to constantly beg for space in someone's life, it's not love. Love makes space on its own. It may not always be perfect, but the intent is always present. If someone loves you, they won't let you live in the margins of their priorities. So ask yourself, who's making room for you? Who's showing, not telling, that you matter? Because love doesn't just talk, it chooses. And if you really want to know how someone feels, don't just listen to their words. Watch what they're willing to give up for you. That's where the truth lives. There's something profoundly intimate about consistency. Not the grand romantic gestures, not the fireworks, but the steady rhythm of someone showing up again and again, especially when life isn't particularly exciting. That's what makes love feel safe and real. When someone consistently chooses you, not just when it's convenient or thrilling, but even when life is messy and routine, that's a kind of devotion that words simply can't replicate. You see, love doesn't just exist in moments of passion, it exists in patterns. A person who truly loves you isn't only present when it's fun, they're present when it's quiet, when you're not your best, when they have other things to do, but still make sure you don't feel like an afterthought. They check in when you're sick. They remember what matters to you. They don't disappear when the mood shifts. That's consistency. And it's one of the loudest signs of deep love. The reason this matters so much is because psychologically, we build trust through repetition. One kind gesture might feel good, but 10 consistent ones, that builds security. And security is the foundation for any love that's meant to last. We don't fall in love with people who overwhelm us with passion once. We fall in love with people who keep showing up. Because that's what teaches us deep down that it's safe to be vulnerable, to be seen. Now, some people will give you emotional whiplash. They'll be intensely available one moment and emotionally gone the next. That's not love. That's confusion disguised as chemistry. Love, real love, brings clarity. It's not hot and cold. It's not conditional. It's steady. And yes, people are human. They won't be perfect. But the person who loves you will always be trying to stay close, trying to communicate, trying to be present. And that trying is what separates real love from fleeting interest. Concert. Stency also reveals character. Anyone can show up once, anyone can be charming for a week, but who are they after a disagreement, after a long day, when you're vulnerable? That's where love gets tested and revealed. So pay attention not just to how someone treats you once, but how they treat you over time. Because love that's real doesn't need to announce itself constantly. It proves itself through consistent care. And in a world that's often chaotic and loud, the quiet commitment of someone who keeps showing up, that speaks volumes. One of the clearest indicators of love isn't found in a grand declaration. It's found in the way someone listens, not just hearing your words, but absorbing them, reflecting on them, acting on them. Because when someone loves you deeply, your voice matters to them. Your feelings don't get dismissed as too sensitive. Your needs aren't treated as inconveniences. They lean in, they remember, and perhaps most powerfully, they respond with adjustment. Now, adjustment is key here because anyone can nod along and say, I hear you, but when someone consistently makes an effort to change a behavior that hurts you or to meet a need you've vulnerably expressed, that's love in motion. That's not ego. That's not performance. That's care. That's respect. And it speaks louder than any I love you ever could. Let's be honest, relationships are mirrors. They reflect both the beautiful and the challenging. And when you bring something up, it's rarely easy. You're risking rejection. You're risking being misunderstood. But the person who loves you doesn't make you feel punished for speaking your truth. They may not get it perfectly right, but they try. That effort, that's sacred. Too often, people think love is about compatibility, shared hobbies, common goals, similar temperaments. But real love reveals itself in conflict. In those uncomfortable moments when you say, that hurt me, or I need more of this, and instead of defensiveness, you get humility, that willingness to reflect and grow. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's love with maturity. Here's what's really going on underneath it. To listen with the intent to understand, not to defend. That's emotional responsibility. It says, I'm not just here to enjoy the easy parts of you. I'm here to grow with you. And that kind of love is rare, not because people aren't capable of it, but because it requires a deep level of self-awareness and care for both you and for themselves. If you want to know if someone loves you, don't just watch what they do when everything's smooth. Watch what happens after you express pain. Do they dismiss you? Do they flip it around on you? Or do they get a little quieter, take it in, and try again the next time? Because love isn't proven in perfect harmony. It's proven in the grace we show one another when we fail, and the willingness to get better because we matter to each other. That's when no words are needed. Love is speaking. There's a moment in every relationship, sometimes subtle, sometimes undeniable, where someone chooses you, not out of convenience or routine, but with intention. It's in the way they show up consistently, not just when it's easy or when they want something, but when it's inconvenient, messy, or emotionally taxing. And that kind of consistency, that's not just affection, that's devotion. See, love isn't always loud. It's often quiet, repetitive, and rooted in action. When someone loves you, they don't need to be asked to care. They simply do. They anticipate. They remember the little things. They show up in small, often unglamorous ways. A check-in after a tough day, picking up something they know you need, holding your hand when you're too overwhelmed to speak. These aren't grand gestures designed to impress. They're real, honest moments of presence. This is where a lot of people get tripped up. We're trained to look for dramatic expressions of love, the big speeches, the romantic surprises, the fireworks. And while those moments can be beautiful, they're not the backbone of real love. The backbone is built through consistency, through someone being there, even when the spotlight's off, especially then. Ask yourself this: when you're not your most charming self, when you're tired, irritable, insecure, does this person still meet you with patience? Do they still choose connection over withdrawal? Love is tested not in the highs, but in the mundane and the difficult. And someone who truly loves you doesn't make their presence conditional. They don't disappear the moment you become inconvenient. But let's go even deeper. When someone loves you consistently, they don't just stay. They stay engaged. They keep learning about you. They stay curious. They don't treat the relationship like something static. They invest in it like it's alive, like it's evolving. That's what makes love sustainable. That's what makes it real. Because the truth is, real love, they're not the kind that lasts, isn't built on constant intensity. It's built on reliability, on the unshakable feeling that someone has your back, not because it's thrilling, but because they've decided that you are worth showing up for. In the end, love isn't proven in declarations. It's proven in dedication. If someone shows you again and again that their love isn't a mood but a commitment, you don't need words. The consistency is the message. There's something profoundly telling about how someone speaks about the future when they're in love. Not just the words they use, but whether you're actually in that future with them. It's easy to miss because these things aren't always stated outright. They come in passing comments, casual plans, little glimpses into what their life looks like 6 months, a year, even 5 years down the line. And the question is, are you in it? When someone truly loves you, they start to include you. They make room for you, not as a fleeting guest, but as a permanent part of their unfolding story. You'll hear it in statements like, "We should go there next summer," or "That's where I'd want to raise kids someday," or even "We'll figure it out together." They use "we," not because it's a tactic, but because that's how they genuinely see it. It's not about creating a fantasy, but about integrating your presence into their reality. What's critical to understand here is this: emotional investment shows up in the architecture of our future. People don't build plans that include those they're unsure about. That doesn't mean the entire roadmap has to be laid out or that every detail is set in stone. But it does mean that someone who is in love thinks long term. They allow themselves to dream with you in it. And here's where people often confuse fantasy with love. Someone who floods you with passion but avoids planning, that's intensity, not intimacy. Real love considers logistics, timelines, values, and long-term compatibility. It says, "I want you not just now, but still, even when things change." Now, this doesn't mean love turns into control or expectation. It's not about forcing the future or demanding guarantees. It's about whether the person beside you is walking in the same direction, not just for now, but with a vision that includes quiet growth. And most importantly, include. Udi's you in that growth. Because ultimately, being spoken of in someone's future isn't just about romantic hope. It's about emotional security. It tells you that this person sees you not as a moment, but as a movement in their life, a part of their becoming. So pay attention to how someone speaks about tomorrow. Love might be silent in many ways, but in this, it speaks volumes. If they can't picture a future with you, believe them. If they do, and they act on it, treasure it. That's not just affection, that's intention.